obtaining
Oh, no, he's
what
not.
do you call getting rid of some what do you call uh
The Silver Surfer was my second favorite comic book hero when I was a kid.
Wow. Silver Surfer gave us the origin story of, quote, a tiny mite that grew even bolder.
ew.
Silver Surfer was very nostalgic to me.
Silver Surfer is a pretty cool superhero.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch first episode of a series so that you don't have to. If you'd like us to review a show, just in the comments below, type in WTF and whatever show you want. That could be WTF, the Silver Surfer in this case, and make sure you put where we can find it. So in this case, you'd say the Silver Surfer, Disney Plus, or maybe you'd add 1998 to that since there's also a movie and probably other things. Anyway, today, as you may have guessed, we are doing the Silver Surfer, Episode 1, The Origin of the Silver Surfer, Part 1. We have a very special guest co-host, Dr. Muhammad Noor.
Hello. Always a pleasure to be on Watch the First. Thanks for having me.
He's filling in for Michael Kenyon Rosenberg. He's doing a great job so far for us, and we thank him very much for that. We also have a very special guest today. She's an actress. She's very funny. Jennifer Durst.
You always say that, and then people expect me to be funny.
Girl, better be funny.
Don't forget to show off your Jeff Goldblum shirt.
Yeah.
I know. My Jeff Goldblum shirt.
And by the way, everybody, Muhammad and I are both wearing Star Trek shirts because we're big Star Trek fans. I've got my Romulan Ale shirt that looks radical, and Muhammad's got his Cetacean Ops shirt
For Lower Decks,
which is brilliant.
There's actually a Star Trek connection to this show, amusingly enough.
Stay tuned for that. That's exciting.
Yeah.
We also have special guest. You know him, Darth Shuey.
You love him too.
You know him.
Yeah, we sure do. He's been, man, I've known Darth since, well, we'll cover that in a moment.
Get into the number of years. Yeah.
Yeah. What do we do now? We just kind of go into the first game, right? Everybody, please make sure that you like this video, give this audio podcast 5 stars and a very nice review. Comment below. Share this with your friends. It makes a great Christmas present or a birthday present as well. Just send it in their DMs. First game is my favorite. And, well, now we can tell you, Darth and I have known each other since 7th grade.
Whoa.
Since we were 12 years.
Around.
Yep. So we know each other really well. Michael and I also know each other very well. Jen and I know each other pretty darn well. We have some giggle fits sometimes in the car when we drive places. And like Muhammad really knows Jennifer very little.
Sorry.
Opposite.
I'll know you more after this.
That's true.
But we're all going to basically predict if the other person liked this episode. In a segment Muhammad likes to call
Prediculation. I had to think for a second. I was like, it's not the other one.
Yeah, you're like, I don't like to call this, but Michael does, and he's looming somewhere listening in.
Yeah,
okay.
Get a very stern call afterward.
So I'll go first. I'm gonna say Muhammad liked this because he likes superhero stuff. You would think that he's more of a sci-fi guy, and he likes sci-fi, but I feel like he might even be more of a superhero guy than sci-fi guy. This is just a guess, but that's what it feels like. He's also very forgiving with cartoons, so I'm gonna put him pretty high on this. Darth, I think, is always a wild card. You never know. He gave a 10 to something that was average the other week. I don't remember what it was, but go check out our previous episodes to find out what that was. But then other times he gives something like a 2 that everybody else thought was pretty good. So
he's opposite.
Yeah, basically he's not going to give it between a 3 or an 8 or 9.
He knows what he likes.
All in or all out.
Yeah, that's his pickup line. Darth is going to say that he did not like it. I don't think he's the biggest fan of superhero cartoons. And Jen, she's going to like it, but she's going to be a little critical of it. But she'll be still, around the 6 region. What do you think, Mohammed?
So Ryan, I think you're going to like this pretty well, because I know you like setups that have like a pretty good setup to see where things are going. And this was one that seemed to be headed in the direction that I think you would like. Jen, you mentioned in your intro that you said this was nostalgic, so I'm going to take that as a positive sentiment. So I'm thinking that aims you a little bit into the positive area. So I can imagine both you and Ryan.
Nice. Nice
What's that?
Work. Nice detective
Yeah, I'm
work.
trying.
Detective.
And didn't Darth say it was cool? Wait, didn't he give it away? I forgot about that.
Oh, what if I hate nostalgic stuff? So
That's possible, but I'm still going to think the same thing, that I think you're going to be more in this, like in the 7 range, and I think Ryan will be similar. Darth, yeah, I mean, it's a roll of the dice. I'm going to think that you're right. I'm going to go against what Ryan said in terms of the high and low. I think you're going to come right in the middle. I think you're going to be like, it's fine. 5, kind of right in the middle of everything.
All right. Don't tell him yet, Darth, whether you want to come in the middle.
Yeah.
You will reveal that later. Jen, what do you think?
Ryan, you said this was your second favorite superhero, I think you said. So I feel like it did the job. Like if you're a fan of the superhero and, going back to when you're younger and stuff, I feel like it did the job for that. So I think you're going to base it really high. I think you're going to go between 8 and 10.
Wow.
Well, I wouldn't say 10 because you never really give 10s unless it was the Paul McCartney thing. But I'm going to say between like 8 and 9. I think you're going to give it.
When I was young.
When you were young. I think that you said you like, both of you are tough because I don't really know you that well, both of you. So I'm going to say that I think you enjoyed it. Yeah, I wouldn't say you gave it like a 10 or a 9, but I'll say like 7 or 8. I think you enjoyed it. And Thor, I don't know, you're so unpredictable from what I hear.
Fellow.
Since you're high and low, I'm gonna say that you liked it better. So I'm gonna say you're gonna give it like a 7 or 8. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing the numbers to range it better, to explain my thought process. But
let's hear Darth's predictions. His predictions have been spot on every time.
Is that right?
For real?
Yeah,
is that real or is that sarcastic?
I have no idea.
Ryan just making it up. Man, Ryan, yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, say okay, it's even if it's your favorite, second favorite, he's gonna give it a fairly high marks, maybe a 7. Mohammed, let's see. You like cartoons, you like superheroes, but you're critical of cartoons. Does have a all right.
To be clear, I never said I like superheroes. Ryan said that. Just to be clear.
Such a tricky game. It's such a tricky
like you really got to be paying attention.
That's why it's my favorite. I could do this all day.
So we say 7 for Ryan. Yeah, I'll go 7 for Mohammed too. Jen, yeah, I don't know your taste, but you said nostalgic feeling. I'm gonna say 8.
Damn, would have been cool if we had 777s.
Yeah.
I was waiting for another 7.
Yeah. Okay, those are very good. Darth, can you unplug your mic and plug it back in just to see it? Because you're a little quiet on us, just to see if that helps. All right, what's next? So those are our predictions. Everybody at home, let us know your predictions. Type them in the live chat, or if you're watching this a little later, type them in the comments below. Make your predictions. Do you think I liked it? Do you think Jen liked it? What about Mohammed? What about Darth, who's impossible to predict the way he likes it? Let us know what you think. Take your time, type it in. Mohammed's going to buy you a little bit of time right now by telling us what this show is even about.
I will indeed. In this 1998 animated series, 2 factions are in conflict in the galaxy. The Kree and the, quote, avaricious Skrull. At the start of this episode, commanders come together from these factions to the planet Zemla to learn together at the academy from the peaceful group there. But the peace is short-lived when a powerful destructive being called Galactus that consumes planets to survive arrives and begins his destruction of Zemla. To spare his planet, Zemla resident Norin Rad, depicted behind me here, strikes a deal with Galactus to become his servant and to help him find planets without sentient life to consume. In exchange, Galactus transforms Norin Rad into a silvery being that can fly through space faster than any starship on a space surfboard.
Wow.
I love that.
Yeah,
Mom,
that was
can I
like
take
the
a look?
longest
Video
intro we've
here.
ever had on this
No,
show, right?
okay.
Like that was a big old paragraph.
But it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank
You
you.
couldn't tell from Jen's face. She was like stone cold. Darth and I were giggling up a storm, and Jen was focused. She was just like, I'm listening. This is good stuff.
Listening.
This is more interesting than the actual
Very
show.
involved.
All right. Now we're really going to get into it, you guys. This is where we
Yeah.
separate the people from the aliens. We are going to compare and
Kree from
contrast
the
what we
Skrull.
right. What we expected versus what we got. Wait a minute, Darth loves the Avengers. But this, yes, so
Not
he does
really,
love
not
Marvel
really.
stuff. Anyway, okay, we compare and contrast what we expected versus what we got in a little game that Muhammad loves to call.
Expectations.
He's ready,
I was
for
ready
that
this
one.
time.
Yeah. All right. So, Muhammad,
Sure.
before you watch this first episode of The Silver Surfer entitled The Origin of the Silver Surfer Part 1,
Great
what did
title.
you expect, if anything?
That's a great question. I had not seen this cartoon before. I don't even think I was aware the cartoon existed before. So this was just completely new to me in that sense. I had seen the Fantastic Four movie, which with the Silver Surfer that also had Galactus. So, I knew a little bit about the legend of it. Honestly, I didn't really remember it that well. I mean, that was, 15 years ago or something like that. I don't remember the details from that. But pretty much went in kind of cold. Like, okay, there's I know the Silver Surfer is the guy who rides the Silver Surfboard and goes through space, but that's kind of about as much as I remember.
By the way, the Silver Surfer in that Fantastic Four movie was played by our good friend, Mr. Doug Jones,
That's
Yeah.
right.
which is amazing and fantastic and makes me wish I had seen the movie, which I have not.
He'll always be around.
Yeah. Jen, what did you expect before you watched this, if anything?
Well, I didn't know anything about Silver Surfer at all, superhero wise, anything. So what I expected, something I know, I just know what he looks like. So that's what happened. I expected from
Silver.
the beginning to see that silver thing,
Reflective.
and then I saw and then I got the other guy, Norman. I was like, oh, who's this guy?
Norman
So
Rand.
Seeing him silver
Rand.
all the way. But I didn't. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Norman.
Where is Silver
Norman
Surfer?
Fell.
Ew.
You remember
Norman
him?
Norman.
Yeah, hey, you
Rat.
just reminded me of
Norman
something
Rat.
I was going to say about the naming of Silver Surfer. It's like the naming of Jack's Bistro, They're like, we got this guy, he's like a Silver Surfer. What are we going to, he's silver,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
surfer.
And he's a
It's
surfer.
Jack's. What do we call Jack's
You
Bistro?
need a
You're right.
good
Good
name for
knowledge.
Jack.
So, Darth, before you watch this episode, what did you expect, if anything? I know.
It's the origin story. And I'd say I got what I was looking for. I guess.
Expect it. We haven't gotten to the Getchins
Oh,
yet.
whoops, that's
The Getchins. That's how they get you, Darth. All right.
Damn it, I got a bad habit of that.
You do. Like we always say, what did you expect? And you goes, yeah, I expected a
What I
good
got.
show and it was pretty good. I enjoyed this. And we're like, whoa, we start panicking. Well, I'll tell you what I expected. Full disclosure, this is not the first time I had seen this. When I first got Disney Plus, whenever it was like a year or so, or
So
whatever.
recently.
Maybe I've gotten it like twice, like one time I got it for a little while and then I got it. I don't remember, but I do remember, I think I think we got to watch like Mandalorian and stuff like that, right? Maybe that was more than a couple of years ago.
That's why everybody got Disney Plus the first time.
And then I just saw that there was a Silver Surfer cartoon. And I was like, everybody knows. I'm like, oh, cool. I can watch this while I'm brushing my tooth, you know? And so I was like, let's just see what happens, you know, watch it for a minute. Just watch it for a minute, see what gives, right? And just whatever. If it sucks, who cares? It's a minute. And I actually was pretty entertained by it, and I enjoyed it. And then, well, no, I'm saying the first time.
Oh, okay.
The first time. And so after that, I was like, you know, this is a good candidate to have on Watch the First. And so Mike and I, you know, I told Mike about it. I don't think I told him if I'd watched it, though. That was my little secret. Mike loves to like make me watch shows that he's already seen 1,000 times and he loves. And he's always like, oh, there's this new show. It's all the rage. We should do this. And then I find out that he like watched it 1,000 times and just trying to get me to watch his shows
already.
So I was trying to get him back on that for the longest time. And it's always been in our queue for months and months and months. And finally, now that we're about to do Superhero Month, by the way, this is the first day of Superhero Month, everybody.
Welcome.
That's when Mike cuts out. He's like, sorry, sucker. You have to do Silver Surfer without me. So anyway, what I expected was to like it again. Because no, it was probably a couple of years ago or a year or something. But anyway, that's what I expected. But what did we actually get, Dr. Noor?
So I thought this was a pretty good, you know, detailed origin story for this character. You know, watching the introductory sequence there, I didn't really remember a lot of the details, like I said before, about Galactus. And I remember there were a Korean scroll, but I didn't really remember anything about them. So it built everything up. It built up the planet. It built up why this person, you know, ended up getting his power. And I remember even watching the opening sequence with him flying through space, like, does he fly through space? That was answered. That was part of the plot. I mean, it was laid out very explicitly. So overall, I mean, I have some nitpicks here and there, and I have some things I especially liked. But overall, I thought, you know, this accomplished exactly what it meant to accomplish. It was a decent cartoon origin story. But I was a little surprised that the graphics, it felt almost more 80s than 90s. But
the CG or
like
all the CG stuff.
Yeah, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it didn't distract. It didn't diminish from my enjoyment of the show. So that's my short version of it.
What about you, Jen? What did you actually get when you watched this episode?
A little bit of like what you said, Mohammed. Like I heard 1998, which for some reason in my head still feels like it was like 5 years ago. I don't know why. 1998, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like good
funny because you were born in 98.
Yeah, right. But then I look and I'm like, wait, this looks like this is like 80s. Like it looks very 80s, very old school. But then I'm like, well, 1998 is a really long time ago as well. So I didn't know if that was like, if that's how it looked in 1998. I don't remember now. Like now I'm all confused in my head about timelines. But going back to what I expect, I didn't really click with the origin. Like, oh, it's the origin story. It didn't click in my brain. So like I said before, I went in thinking I'm gonna see the silver guy from the beginning, and then I got the whole story, and I actually thought it was kind of cool how they did the origin story and how like it made sense in a short period of time because it's like 22 minutes or whatever. So
yeah, that's why it's because it was like 16 minutes long or something like that.
Well, there is a part 2 or something.
It was a 2-parter. Yeah,
that's what it implies. Darth, what did you actually get? By the way, did you get a show that was cool?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it's more or less like what I was expecting. You know, like it was. I never knew. I did the same thing as Ryan. I watched it maybe a year ago or so, something. And I was like, hey, I always wonder what is the deal with Silver Surfer? How, is this guy from a planet where everybody looks like that, or what? Who is this guy? You know? Oh yeah. Hey, by the way, I got a little Silver Surfer. I got a little Silver. Got a little.
How'd you get that?
I just saw him at Target one day. Got a little surfboard.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. Was it before you watched the cartoon?
Yeah, it's like right around the same time. I was like, hey, whoa, it's a weird coincidence. Like I was always curious about the Silver Surfer, and like and now like I feel cool toys. Is something captivating about a guy who's all silver, right?
It was fate that you would review this. It finally paid off. That $7.99.
He's been holding it for the perfect time.
There you go.
Unopened. He only opened it today.
Oh my gosh.
$50
I'll tell
down
you
the
guys what
drain.
what I actually
Please.
got in this this view round. Let me tell you, I wasn't as impressed with it as the first time. The first
Oh,
time,
wow.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, hey, this is very fun and easy and enjoyable to watch. It's not groundbreaking. It's not blowing anything out of the water, but I was like, this is enjoyable. I think I ended up watching like 2 or 3 episodes of it, you know. But then I was like,
More
all
than
right,
one
relax,
season.
Ryan, move on with your life. But then this time I feel like I enjoyed it a little less. And it might be because when I watched it the first time, I wasn't expecting anything. And it was actually pretty good. But this time I was like, wasn't it really good? I've been wanting to watch this on this show for a long so maybe the expectations were higher. And then now, you know, it was a little less. Still an easy watch, but yeah, a little less.
I love when the opposite of that happens. You don't like it the first time, and you're like, "Oh, I'll watch it again," even though it's a piece of crap. Yeah, you know what? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, see?
But I have that habit of watching something years ago and then forcing people to watch it. Like, oh my God, like watch it. And then when I watch it, I'm like, like what did I
What have I done?
I'm like, oh, I don't remember it being this bad, but okay.
Sorry, I recommended that.
Sorry.
But as Muhammad was saying, don't you guys feel like this accomplished its goal of giving you a coherent, easy to understand, simple, fun origin story? Like we get it. Okay, alien, whatever. This guy, good deal that he made, you know, an agreement. It all works. It all makes sense, right?
Yeah, it makes me think of just kind of Marvel movies that just in general and shows that it's like they already have these stories, you know, they've been sitting on them for years or making them better, improving upon them. So it's like they kind of already know it works. I'm sure 90% of this is straight out of the comic, you know, just you know, dumbed it down a little bit for a younger audience, but
it might not be dumber. I feel like the movies they complicate it up a bit, but I feel like the cartoons they probably keep it about. I don't know. Weren't comics already kind of dumbed down for us?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Depends on the comic.
Yeah.
In terms of the timing and because I mean both Jen and I commented on it. I mean the contrast to me was something like Batman Beyond. I don't know if you guys remember that cartoon. That's from like 1 year later. It's 1999. The animation for this versus Batman Beyond, like it's not the same. Like
now,
this is much more.
1 year later, it reminded me of that. Now I remember the animation's so like different.
Yeah.
Well, you know where I noticed there are 2 points where I noticed the animation. One was every time they just had like these extremely thick lines. Like look at the Silver Surfer. Like that is a very thick black line you don't need all that. And so maybe their animation style was to try to mirror the comic books. You know what I mean? And the comics, they do have these big thick lines because this does look like a comic. Because I kept thinking like, man, they are making the lines, the cheekbone lines, the lines on the hand, like super prominent and thick and big. And like, why are you doing that? It makes it look so terrible. But then the other time I noticed the animation was with Galactus. It seemed like he was computer generated. Like
there's a lot of
every time it showed his face or his hand move, his hand looked like it was computer generated, mixed in with a show that was actually hand drawn animated. And I don't know if did you guys notice that? It seemed really weird to me.
Yeah, it stands out. It really stands out.
Oh, you did notice that. Is Darth, are you drawing right now? Are you animating?
Oh, yeah, I was just painting.
He's making Silver Surfer 2022.
Hey, I'm updating him.
Okay, but Darth, you did notice that, right? Was it computer animated?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Okay.
Very obvious, yeah. It does feel like you got 2 different houses, I guess, but they're, you know, marrying the two different styles, and it just they very contrast very, very strongly,
Which I guess that would be cool if like Galactus comes and he's like this weird being and you want to show him as something different and then he leaves. But the fact is now you're going to have him and the Silver Surfer working together or being together, presumably, and you're going to have these 2 styles, it's going to be weird. Or maybe they're just not really going to interact very much. Maybe Silver Surfer's just going to go out and find these planets and only check in with Galactus every 5 or 10 episodes or something like that. I don't know.
Or you can just radio him and say, "Go eat that one."
Yeah.
Yeah. I assume, do you guys know much about the story of these guys? Like they're the whole. Okay, me neither. I was like, curious if they're like arch enemies, if there's like a light, if it's like a Batman, a Joker kind of thing, or
Yeah, I have a lot of questions too.
yeah, like is that going to be the main villain going forward?
That's what I was hoping to find out too, because I don't really remember the details from when I was a kid. I just really remember liking the Silver Surfer. Is really cool.
Yeah, he's cool,
but I don't remember if he needs to have like an arch nemesis or a few villains, or maybe he just deals with the Kree and the Skrulls constantly, because we know those guys are kind of prevalent in the Marvel universe. But do you guys know anything about the story?
So in the movie, at least in the Fantastic Four movie, remember he came to Earth, and somehow like that prompted his memories of Zemla, and that's when he was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to stop Galactus from eating this planet," or something like that. I don't remember the details, but it was something vaguely along those lines. Maybe that's going to happen. Maybe he's going to start remembering bits of Zemla or Shalabal over here. I don't know. It's a weird name.
Funny that they called each other.
I know.
With their
I have it on my
names.
phone, her name, because I keep like, am I pronouncing it right? Shalabal.
Shallow Hal.
Shalabal.
Yeah. Did it feel like his character, like he doesn't have much of a character, or no? I kept thinking, like, what is he besides that? He's like, I guess, what kind of honorable, or he wants to save.
You mean like his personality, or what do you mean?
Yeah, like what's his personality? Yeah, like what kind of dude is he? You don't really find out much. It's like I feel like there's no character to him.
Well, he's completely changed. I mean, whatever he was may be completely different now. So I mean,
that actually shocked me too. Yeah. That shocked me how he lost all memory, which made everything just more sad to me.
Yeah.
How cute was it though when he said, "What about this planet?" And then Galactus said,
one of my favorite parts.
He said, "No, not this planet. I made a deal with an honorable man." I was like, "Oh, that's so cute."
Yeah.
That's actually what I was gonna say for my favorite part, and you ruined it.
Oh, this is a segment we like to call "What is your favorite part?" We'll start with you, Jen. What was your favorite part?
That was my favorite part.
That's it.
My favorite part.
What was your second favorite part?
Probably when he was like leaving Shalabal, whatever her name is. It wasn't my favorite because I liked what happened, but it was sad to me. Even like the cartoon had all the tears coming down his eyes, and I thought that was pretty interesting because I don't feel like they normally show like guys superheroes like crying or whatever, but like they showed his tears like pouring out of his eyes, and that kind of was like, it made me a little bit like, oh, and then feeling for her like she's losing like her love of her life, like, so it was kind of sad. And
did they say that they were the love of their lives? I mean, they were calling each other by their last names.
They might, but I don't know what it was, but it just felt.
She seemed very sad about him going away, so it's fair.
Yeah. So I don't know what they were or whatever. Yes, but it seemed very emotional.
I mean, not matching like it, but just they were both wearing spandex.
But really, we do have to see, Darth, what you're working on. Can you hold it up for us, whatever it is?
Well, I'm just
Silver Surfer.
Painting.
No, he's not.
What do you call getting rid of some? What do you call
stains?
Name brands. Just covering up name brands
to resell them.
Yeah, want it to be off-brand, not a nice brand.
Well, Darth, what was your favorite moment of this episode?
Man, oh man. Well, I guess maybe just some of the kind of the trippy, like seeing the cosmos and seeing him surfing a little bit. I guess I could have seen a little bit more of that. Wouldn't have mind seeing a little more of that.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I guess just a more kind of out there, kind of weird. Seeing the Silver Surfer become the Silver Surfer, that was pretty cool. It gives him these weird powers. I don't know. Is there a specific part? I don't know. Maybe not.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's very similar to my favorite part, which is just kind of like the certain aspect of it, which is seeing all the different races and aliens and all that, because then you can kind of see the creators' creativity, you know, like even though they only show them for like a half a second or a couple seconds at a time, it tells a story, you know, like you see there's like these stick people that are like standing up and then these red people that are like fighting for their freedom or something like that. And it's just like really interesting that they're able to cram in all this stuff, and they're not just doing like, you know, the standard Star Trek alien with like a little dot on their forehead to signify that they're a different race or something. Like with animated stuff, you can go as wild and as creative as you want. And I always thought it was so cool to see all the different aliens they had, or sometimes when he was talking on Zen Law and in the background, he had a bunch of different looking aliens, some were green or purple or whatever. That was pretty cool for me. I did take some notes of some of them. Oh yeah, there was one of them that kind of reminded me of Star Trek Prodigy's Rock Talk, because it was like a big red alien, but it had like a little girl's voice. You know, I was like, whoa, it's Rock Talk, kind of, you know? So that was fun. But Muhammad, did you have a favorite moment or aspect of the episode?
I was excited to see the Watcher, because I like the Watcher as a character in What If, and so I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Well, I'm especially partial to that one because that was played by the same guy who played Bernard in Westworld, who I thought was a phenomenal
that guy's
character.
A great actor, man. He's a real diverse actor.
Which this was obviously a different voice actor, but still, yeah.
He did a really great. What's that character? DC character, MODOK. Is that a DC guy?
Oh, that's Marvel.
Yeah, it's
Marvel. Oh, okay, there's a riff on that character on the Venture Brothers that he did a voice of.
Oh,
that pretty funny. He plays like an African professor. There's like a genius. There's a fun, just a fun voice. But yeah, that dude's a super talented, super versatile.
MODOK. By the way, everybody, we did a review of MODOK very early on, actually, in this show. Where was it?
They have a MODOK
find
show?
It right now. Yeah, WTF MODOK.
Oh.
And we reviewed it. I don't remember which episode number it was, but I believe we saw it with our good friend Roz. Let me see if I can find it. No, I can't find it.
While you're pulling that up, I can tell you what the Star Trek Discovery connection is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Hang on. I found it real quick.
Oh, okay.
It was WTF number 67. And yeah, it was with our good buddy, Roz Stanley. Here's a hint. Between Roz, myself, and Michael, one of us liked it much more than the others. So check it out, episode 67, WTF 67, MODOK, with Roz Stanley, the actress and funny lady. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Muhammad.
No, it's totally fine. So the connection actually wasn't in this episode, but I just saw on IMDb when I pulled up IMDb to check how to spell the names and things like that. I saw one of the voice actors in the show who's a repeated character, but not in this episode. It's Tara Rosling, who plays President Tarina of Navarre in Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, wow. Good knowledge.
Oh, that's very different.
Wow.
And who did she play in this?
She wasn't in this episode, but she's in the series.
I see.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Is it a major character, like a major?
It's a repeating one. I mean, there's only 13 episodes, and I think she was in 6 or 5, something like that. She was in multiple of them.
Wow,
So.
recurring, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's 13 episodes in the season and only one season?
Yeah.
Means maybe it wasn't very good.
Oh, no, actually, I read about that, too. It said that there was some fight between Marvel and the company that was putting this one. That was the cause of dropping it. It wasn't so much the ratings.
How sad.
Makes sense. Yeah, I know that was kind of their issue with Fantastic Four and everything, right? And obviously Spider-Man, they had a bunch of issues there.
Well, speaking of Spider-Man, unpopular opinion, but I never really cared that much for Spider-Man.
Yeah, like, everybody.
Like there was a cartoon back in the day that was Spider-Man, and I wanted to like it because he was a superhero, and I remember the song, and I remember wanting to like it, but I remember always kind of being like bored or thinking, Spider-Man kind of.
Did you watch the really old one? Because there was like a really old one that was like Spider-Man, and then there was Spectacular Spider-Man, and then there was Ultimate Spider-Man.
I don't know. I'm sure. Well, it definitely was that song. And I feel like it was from the 80s. Well, I feel like it was from like the 80s, maybe like Hanna-Barbera, like everything else was back then.
I think Spectacular Spider-Man was like early 2000s. Oh, sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Definitely not. But do you guys have favorite superheroes or superheroes that you didn't like. What do you think, Darth? I know you like your
I always
fill.
loved Batman.
Oh, right.
Ever
Yeah,
since I
you're
was
a
a kid.
huge Batman fan. That's right.
But I don't know. Ever since that first Iron Man movie came out, he kind of dethroned Batman. So I don't know. That's a tough one.
You actually like somebody better than Batman? You've liked
Yeah.
Batman since you were a little stinker. But
Yeah,
Iron Man
doesn't
is
like-
kind of like Marvel's answer to Batman. It's just like the regular guy who's just rich
Yeah,
and an
totally.
inventor and just wears, technological armor. So Iron Man's your favorite
a million
now?
times smarter too. Yeah. I love
Iron
really smart characters too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Batman's an idiot. What do you think, Jen? You have some favorites?
I feel like I have having like when I was younger, I used to love X-Men, and like Rogue was one of my favorites.
Mm.
And
She was hot.
Jean Grey, because like when I saw the movie, Jean Grey was like my favorite. So I switched according to like how I feel now. Ever since Disney Plus and all that comes out with all these shows and stuff, I don't know if you want to consider her. I love Scarlet Witch now.
Mm.
Like I don't know why. Like
So
Wanda.
you obviously watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, and I actually didn't even think she was going to be the enemy in it, which was so weird. So that's what I love. But even her as like the villain, I feel like she has a real, like they all kind of have real things going on with them, but hers is a little bit more deeper and real, and you kind of understand why she's doing the things she does. So I love her now. So I guess next year, ask me again, and probably be someone new, but that's what it is now.
I haven't
Which
seen.
sucks now.
That's that's cool, Darth, having the Silver Surfer
Yeah,
up there.
put
That
it
looks
together.
great. I love it. Scarlet was the one that was in WandaVision. That's Wanda, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wanda.
See, I never finished
That
WandaVision.
movie is a direct follow-up of WandaVision. Like
Yeah.
you have to watch WandaVision before you watch the Doctor
And
Strange.
a lot of
I
a
have
lot
a
of
feeling I'm
people
not going to
gave
watch
up on
either.
No, a lot of people gave up on WandaVision the first two like episodes, but I actually enjoyed the first two episodes. I felt like I was the only person in the world that enjoyed the first two.
I love
Like,
them.
then it
Yeah,
gets
I mean, I've been
really
watching
good.
sitcoms my whole life, so I mean, they nailed every
Yeah.
genre or every
I
era.
love
But I'm
it.
not watching Marvel to watch a sitcom, though, dude.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's me.
Okay, but I am.
We did, as you're going to say, Ryan. We did watch the first of WandaVision back in January 2021.
Wow, good knowledge
grab
that
'em.
you remember that it was in January. That's right. We released it January 20th in 2021. It is WTF episode number 44. Muhammad was our special guest that day, and Muhammad already knows what a grouch I can be with some of these things. I was like, I'm watching a Marvel show to see superheroes do superhero stuff. I'm not watching it to see Bewitched. However, maybe
No, it was awesome.
maybe I ended up loving it. You don't know. Everybody go check
I
out
don't think
WTF
you did. You said you haven't seen it. The rest
44 to see WandaVision. Michael and Muhammad and myself watched it, and boy, were we really going at it. If you like drama, that was a very dramatic episode. We went nuts for that. Muhammad, though, I feel like you are kind of a Spider-Man kind of guy.
I like Spider-Man. If I was to pick my favorite, I wouldn't pick Spider-Man. But he's cool. I mean, I watched that one mostly with my son as he was watching him growing up. So that's why I watched the original ones and Spectacular, which I love the theme song for that one, and the Ultimate Spider-Man, and then all these other ones that are like team ups with various of them. And even as a kid, I watched. I forget, there was something like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It had like Spider-Man and Iceman and Firestar.
Oh, they have
that's
a new one now, like the multiverse or something of Spider-Man. There's like a cartoon now that I saw the trailer for, which is
Into the Spider-Verse?
Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a fun one too. Yeah, I think as a kid though, my favorite was Green Lantern. That was always my favorite. Which the movie didn't do complete justice. Yeah.
Every once in a while, I meet somebody who just loves Green Lantern. Darth, remember our buddy Tim? Tim Springer? Yeah.
He was a Green Lantern guy?
Huge Green Lantern fan. And I'm like, really? Green Lantern? And he's like, yeah, there's all these different Green Lanterns and but this is my favorite. I'm like, you even have a favorite Green Lantern? Like, there's so many layers to this. But like the people that like Green Lantern love it. But I just don't know much about him. He was DC though, wasn't he?
He was definitely DC, yeah.
Boy, I imagine all the hardcore Green Lantern fans just must have been pissed by that movie.
It was okay. I mean, like,
I didn't think it was as bad as people made it sound. Like maybe it was disappointing to people, but people like tore it apart. Like even Ryan Reynolds makes fun of it in his other movies. But I think he makes fun of it in Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like he shoots himself in the head or something.
Damn, I almost wore my Deadpool shirt. I have it right there. I was gonna wear it because I was like, hey, that's the only superhero shirt I have. But I was like, wait, don't blow your wad yet, Ryan. You got 3 more superhero shows to do this, this August.
But actually, speaking of Deadpool, he's one of my favorites too because he's just so funny.
I still haven't seen the Deadpool movie.
But seriously, one of them.
Either one.
Oh my goodness, so funny.
But I actually really like Colossus, so I do want to watch it for Colossus.
People say that was the best Colossus. That was the best representation of Colossus.
Wow.
And also, by the way, I think that was Ryan Reynolds either doing the motion capture or the voice or something. Somehow he was like Colossus too.
Interesting. Yeah, I was never like DC. I was never into DC except for Super Friends because you have like
Super Friends.
Because anytime you have
Doom,
anytime you have a crew of superheroes and a crew of supervillains, I'm all in. X-Men. I was a huge X-Men kid back in the day. I didn't really care too much about the Avengers because they just seemed like more boring characters back then. But now the movies are fantastic. But yeah, DC. Other than Super Friends, Superman was okay. But I never cared about Batman or Robin or Wonder Woman or whatever else those people were. The Wonder Twins. Give me a break. Bell bottoms. Get out of here. Anyway,
Wonder Twin powers activate.
But we'll talk more about that in our next episode, right, Mohammed? We're definitely going to cover some DC stuff.
We're going to cover some DC, though, not the Wonder Twins.
Yeah, everybody stay tuned for next week. We're going to be talking about a DC show that's going to blow your mind.
It'll be here in a flash.
Yeah. You're such a daredevil. Anyway, do you guys have any? Okay, Mohammed, that's what I want to talk about. You had so many nitpicks, you said. Let's hear them.
I did. Well, I mean, there were things I just thought were kind of silly at times, like when that guy, I forget his name, the guy who was on Zen Law said, well, why don't we talk to Galactus and see if we can make him not do what are the odds that's going to work? No, evacuate the planet. Don't, let's call him and say, please don't. What?
That's never been tried.
Yeah, right.
They've never tried to just talk to the villain.
Just crazy enough to work.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
That would be funny to do a show that they just talk to the villain and then it works.
Yeah, he's like, oh, never mind.
Okay. Bring up a good point. Yeah, I'm going to leave you guys alone.
I thought I thought the deaths for, what are the names? Captain Kalek and Commander Husserl, the Kree and Skrull, they were just like, boom, gone.
Super anticlimactic, right?
Yeah, very anticlimactic.
I thought too. I pictured myself. I was like, if I was watching this as a child, I'd be like, wait, did they die or didn't they? Because we're more used to a bigger death, and so I was thinking, if I was a kid, I wouldn't really know if they died or not because they just they're
just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third one was just that Galactus would even listen to Norrin Rad. Why are you listening to the tiny mite?
Yeah, you're a little servant. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that just seemed odd that you're listening to him, and then you're like, oh, okay, you can find planets for him. What? You don't know anything about this man. What is this? But maybe he's using his Galactus powers that he knows he's honorable and actually can accomplish this well. Yeah, maybe so.
It did explain also that he was growing weary of always looking for planets, and he was also kind of a little desperate because he's like, if I don't find a planet, I'm going to die. And so the way they went about it, it was a little silly, but I thought that the idea behind making a deal, like saving your planet by basically doing his bidding, being his slave, being his assistant, whatever you want to call it, and since he wiped his memory, he is basically his slave because he's not choosing to do it anymore. Now he's just doing his bidding without having that choice because his memory's been wiped. But I thought that was really, an interesting origin story. A lot of these origin stories are a little, how many times can somebody fall in toxic waste or, or fill in the blank?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one had
Sounds true.
its own unique origin story that I hadn't seen before, I don't think. So I did like that aspect of it, and I like that this feels like it's going to be a sci-fi Marvel show, kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, where they're out in space, not fighting on planet Earth and saving Chicago or whatever,
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Chicago, Jen, let's talk about you for a minute. What do you say?
How does Chicago relate to me?
I don't know. Because you visited there once, maybe? I don't know.
I did visit once. How did you know? Just once.
Just a guess. No, you're actually from like Brooklyn or something.
Yeah, Brooklyn.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself. You're an actress. You will one day be on that shirt next to Jeff Goldblum because your dream is to be. Is that the same? Darth, is that the same toy? He looks smaller now.
Yeah. I was trying to make him hold his surfboard.
Your dream is to be on the next Jurassic Park movie or something like that.
Done now.
Are they going to make another one? I don't think so.
Maybe they'll do a series.
They finished the franchise, but they did talk about a TV series, which would be awesome because then that's even better, more work for me consistently. But yeah, I have my manifestations with Jeff Goldblum. I don't know if he'll be in the TV series, but and working with working with Steven Spielberg is one of my biggest dreams too.
Wow.
Those are my goals, but like my main goals. But I want to be on like TV and movies and all that.
Everything else too,
because I am in movies and stuff. But I want to be in successful ones. So
you're working now on something called like Assassin's. Are you working on something called Assassin's Apprentice or something like that now? I think I saw that on IMDb.
Oh yeah. Yes. Those are like shorter ones. But they're really cool too. Yeah.
What is it like? What's the theme?
Just the Assassin's Apprentice, right? Like basically, I have a little role in it, but it's basically about like an apprentice just trying to do the job and learning how to be an actual assassin, basically.
Oh.
I have a little part in both of them, but it's pretty cool. A lot of stunts and action. So
actually, that reminds me. Speaking of stunts, Jen here gets a lot of work as a hand model doing hand stunts.
Really?
By accident. But by accident. It just started as a joke, and then it started serious, then it became a joke, and now it just keeps happening. So
it just keeps happening.
This was a plot in Seinfeld with George.
And that's why we joke about it. We joke about it all the time. They were like, with the hands, and then he goes and grabs the iron, and then it like burns his hands.
Oh my gosh!
His career.
And he has his parents like doing, but that's the thing. It's like I don't take care of my hands at all, but somehow I wind up being like hand doubles. And
so is this for like jewelry companies, or what are you showing?
No, it's like movie hand doubles. So I started in this movie Occupants where I was actually working on crew, but because I was the same height and all that, and same like body type hand wise as the lead.
Body type hand wise.
I was like not really body type, but hand wise and height. And she was there's a scene where she's like sleeping, and then like her parallel self or whatever touches her. So obviously they couldn't make that look real without somebody else doing it. So they just like pulled me, made me do that. And then the director was like being funny about, like he wasn't being funny, but the way he was talking about it was pretty funny. He was just like, oh, the way like you moved your hands when I was directing it, you're so good, and your hand did really well. And I was like, I guess my hand's like an amazing actor. But and then when the movie came out, people were questioning who the hand was. So I wind up like walking down the red carpet as my hand. It was pretty funny. So it started a joke. But now, like, every time I work with that director, like, it sort of happens by accident. He's like, oh, we need somebody to, like, pour the whiskey and get a shot. I'm, like, pouring the whiskey with my hand. And then the other day, they had to, like, do, like, other scenes, but the actress couldn't make it. So they're like, okay, we'll use Jen's hand. And, like, so now they just call me, like, hey, we need your hand to do, like, a driving scene.
And that director is, shout out to our good friend, Mr. Russ Emanuel, right? Yeah.
And he actually did a whole shout out on Instagram to my hands because, like, by accident, just keep happening. They're like, oh, call Jen. She'll do it. I'm like, okay, fine.
Does your hand get in the end credits?
It should. I'm going to tell them it needs some. Well, the funny thing was on Occupants, they kept trying to put me in as something on IMDb, and one of the PAs, like as a joke, put in on IMDb "evil hands," and then it came out. So if you look on my IMDb, it's like Jennifer Durst, "evil hands." Like that's my character name in it, even though it's just my hand. But so it was pretty funny that it has a credit.
What kind of job would that be? No,
I know, like a hand double, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because I wouldn't say hand model. Like I don't do the luxurious like jewelry. My wrists are so tiny. I went to an audition once at hand model, and the bracelet fell like so far down my arm. They were like, "Yeah, we can't use her because my wrists are like." So.
Oh my gosh.
But it's pretty funny.
Oh, yeah, there is under Occupants 2015.
Yeah, it probably says evil hands.
That's where it all started. But I did want to ask
started.
also, Jen, real quick, when and how did you know or think or decide or feel that you wanted to act?
Actually, the reason why we joke about Jurassic Park and my obsession with it, it was from that movie. I was 11 years old. My dad took me to see it, and when I left the theater, I was like, I need to be a part of like something this epic. I went to see it like 9 more times with my dad, which he was a good sport. And then I just kept saying, "Oh, Dad, I'm going to be in the second one." And he's like, "Okay, yeah," which didn't happen. And then I was like, "Oh, I'll be in the third one." That didn't happen. So when I moved to LA, that's basically the journey, like that movie. And then I started to like reenact things with my friends and watch more movies. And I was super movie buff back then. I had like my little Blockbuster card, and like I was always watching movies, always renting them. I just always wanted to be in movies and something like those adventurous. And it was the movie Jurassic Park that made me feel like I needed to be a part of something that the way I felt about Jurassic Park, I needed to be a part of a movie or TV show that made other people feel that way. That was my goal in life. Like I was like, I need other people to feel the way I felt for Jurassic Park and be involved in that. So that's the movie made me feel that way. And then ever since then, that's it. I just wanted to be an actress. I moved to LA like later than I thought, because I always was like, I'm a New Yorker, I'm never going to move to LA. And then I ended up moving to LA. And so that's why I say my goal is to be a part of the Jurassic world. But obviously it's just being part of something so epic that maybe motivates other people to follow their dreams, just like Jurassic Park did for me. So
it's a wonderful sentiment. Well said. Good question, Ryan.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I never heard that story before. It was very moving. Okay, let's move forward to Muhammad's got it. He's doing the karate chop right now. It's
doing
happening.
Slowly. I want to make sure that's what you're gonna say.
No, that's exactly
Bottom
it. That's right. The terrible twos, everybody. You got it.
Bottom line. Right here on the bottom.
Got to be debated
final
in every
two
episode.
questions of the show. Michael likes to call it the bottom line. Pretty much everybody else likes to call it the bottom line, except for me and the Silver Surfer, Norin Radical. All right. Oh, that's a good angle for him, actually. It looks cool right there. You can kind of see his
very statuesque
abs.
Good abs.
Oh yeah, look at those abs.
Final two questions of the show. It's the two most important. This is it. This is what you tuned in for. Dr. Muhammad Noor, who, by the way, is the what is it? The Dean of Arts and Sciences at Duke University.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Wow.
I swear your title is smarter than my brain, dude. I can't even fully remember it every time. Dr. and also occasional Star Trek advisor. Everybody knows that as well. Here we go. Jen's like, whoa, I didn't realize I was in the presence of royalty today. You are.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
I'm never going to be in Jurassic Park.
Never know.
Let's see if I can do it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, Dr. Noor, what would you give this first episode of The Silver Surfer entitled, I forgot, The Origin of the Silver Surfer? Okay.
Exactly.
Most generic title.
Yeah, I would give this a 7.5. And the reason I'm not going higher is because there wasn't anything wrong with it, but it wasn't, even though actually I thought it was a very good origin story, but it wasn't especially inspiring to me. It wasn't like, wow, I'm dying to see more of this thing, which we'll get to in just a second, more details on that. Yeah, it was fine. I enjoyed it. I did. I was never looking at my watch as we were watching it. Followed through. It was fine.
Uh,
7.5.
what about you, Jen? Scale of 1 to 10?
I was going between a 6.8 and a 7. That's how tight I feel. Only because I found myself more interested in it towards the end of it and not the beginning. I felt like the beginning, I actually rewounded it a little bit and was like, wait, I didn't hear his whole story. Like, what's going on? And rewatch it again. And then I was still the second time rewatching it and I'm like, okay, and blah, blah, blah. And it didn't start to get maybe the last, I know it was only 20, 22 minutes or whatever, how long it was, but maybe the last 10 minutes or so, maybe 20, 12 minutes is when I was actually really engaged. So that's why I'm it was good, but it wasn't to where the whole, consistently good for me. So being a 6.8.
Oh, she chose the lower of the two numbers instead of splitting the difference.
As I'm talking about it, I'm remembering me going back twice.
All right, Darth. This is it. This is the big moment.
Yeah.
Scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
Scale of 1 to 10, yeah, maybe a 6 or 7 is a good. I gotta agree more or less with Muhammad because I think it's good. They got a great story. It's the foundation is great what they're going from, but it was not poorly executed or anything. It just was kind of meh. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, that's the word.
All right. So Darth is going on record giving it a 6 or a 7.
Is that what I said?
6.5.
Which one what do you go with, Darth?
6 1/2.
All right, there it is, just like Jen predicted.
Good job, Jen.
Well, Darth, you'll be happy to know that I too am giving it a 6 and 1/2. I'm giving it a 6.5. Maybe the first time I watched it, I would have given it a 7 or an 8, but the second time, I had higher expectations. I think it achieved its goal completely in that, it explained the origin story in a way that was easy to understand and rather fun and rather entertaining. But I think, it loses points in that it wasn't particularly exciting or super fun. You know what I mean? They focused more on backstory, which is cool. And maybe we'll serve it well in future episodes. But for this particular episode, there wasn't a ton going on. It wasn't super fun or super interesting for me. It was somewhat interesting and palatable and easy to watch. Very easy to watch. It gets its points for being easy to watch for me. But the animation was a little suspect. But okay, fine. I'm fine with that. But that's what we would give it on a scale of 1 to 10. The second question is this. For the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of The Silver Surfer. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Dr. Muhammad Noor, would you, of your own volition, watch the second episode?
If it was on TV and somebody wanted to watch it with me, let's say, for example, if my son was still young and he wanted to watch the second one, yeah, I'd happily watch it. On my own, nah. I mean, I didn't feel any particular compunction to just keep on watching it. I thought it was fine for what it was, but there's plenty of stuff, as you like to say, as we're free to move about the internet, there's plenty out there on the internet to watch that I'd probably rather watch than this.
I'd also like to thank Muhammad for saying compunction. It took us 123 episodes to get the word compunction on this show, but we did it. We finally did it. Darth is I need to figure out how to spell that.
Yeah, I got to look that word up.
Yeah, me too.
To look up avaricious. It came up in the episode.
Avaricious, yeah. Well, I was just assuming as some kind of derivative of voracious, but maybe I'm wrong. Greedy. Okay. Yeah, that works with how they described, that they were going to conquer things and make them do their bidding. Jen, would you watch the second episode of your own volition? Just if you felt like watching it, would you?
So when I first started it, I'm like, hell no, I'm never watching it again. And then towards the end, I actually got curious. So my curiosity makes me want to see part 2. But I don't know if I will. So it's like I would watch the second episode, but I don't know if I actually will do it.
Well,
Because some
Ain't
of
that the
them,
truth?
like I'll watch it and like I have to go on to the second. Like, and immediately I probably watch the second without even like before I even come on the show. But this one was like, I'm curious. I'm gonna watch the second. And then I haven't yet, so most likely I won't, but I would. If that makes sense.
I would.
Absolutely.
I'm not
That's
going
our
to, but I
answer
would.
many times. Would we? Yes. Will we? Probably
No.
not.
Exactly. Will and would.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, but I'll let you know if I watch the second. I'll tell you what
Oh,
happened.
thank goodness. Darth, would you watch the second episode of your own volition?
Yeah, I don't know if I would watch too much beyond that. You know, you want to finish that's what I was kind of thinking. They kind of cut the first story in half, you know? It's like you don't get the full origin story until you see the second part.
That's true.
Good point.
But yeah, probably not. Yeah, and I was thinking what Ryan was talking about earlier about like the excitement of the episode. I can't really imagine. That got me thinking like that it would really appeal to little kids. I can't imagine kids being like, "Oh, Silver Surfer, so exciting."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Darth.
I don't know what the competition was in 1998.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Darth,
that's true.
if anything, is in tune with what the kids are thinking. He knows.
I like the colors. That's it.
Oh.
The next year they'd be like, hell no, I'm watching Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, yeah, maybe that's what killed it.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm actually quite on the fence with this.
Oh.
But the more I talked about it, the more I realized that yes, I would. Number one, because I did before. I watched the second and maybe the third episode. I don't remember if I watched 2 or 3, but then I moved on. But beyond that, even still now, I feel like I would because of the word that Jen used, which is curiosity. The more we talked about this, and I think that's what got me to watch it the first time, was curiosity, which is all we got was the origin story. We didn't get an example of what the show is going to be like. We don't know. Like, this is kind of its own thing. And then the next 12 episodes are going to be episodes. You know what I mean? Like, this almost felt like the first chapter, but we don't know. We don't know if it's going to be the Silver Surfer and Galactus riding together. We don't know if it's Silver Surfer just going off on his own looking for planets, but then running into alien battles and trying to save them, or we don't know. You know, we don't really know what this episode gave us nothing to know what to expect for future episodes. And a lot of times that's a negative for me. A lot of times I'm like, oh, well, then I don't know. I'm not going to watch it. But this time it gave me enough to where I'm curious to at least see the second episode. Second episode is almost like the first episode of the series to me. So and it's called part 1. So I'm gonna kind of want to watch part 2.
To build your analogy, it's kind of like the person fell into the toxic liquid, and then that's the end of the episode.
Well,
and he came out and he's like, now I feel super strong. And they're like, what are you gonna do about it? Find out next week.
You're about to find out.
Yeah, that's the one. All right. Well, we did it, everybody. That was pretty impressive. We are very averaged out in our scores. Everyone between 6.5 and 7.5. And everyone between no and yes, also very averaged out.
Yeah.
Very cool episode then.
I think that's about it, right, guys? That was a good time. Really appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you so much, Jen, for playing with us. What a great time every time you are here. You are also our second guest ever on the show, so we're so happy that you did the Mandalorian with us. So check that out, WTF number Deuce. If anybody knows who the first guest was, make your predictions now. And also, it's a trick question because Jen was actually our first guest. I think
that's what I thought.
We recorded you first and the other person second, but we flipped them because of, we thought that, because Star Trek Picard had just come out. And so we wanted to. But anyway, boy, that's great trivia, everybody. So what I'm trying to say is this podcast was nostalgic. I stole yours, Jen.
This podcast was a great chat about a meh cartoon.
Oh, this podcast, it was old school. I had to find another word for nostalgic.
This podcast was more fun than the show itself.
Oh.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much. If you'd like us to review a show, of course, just type WTF and the show in the comments below. Also tell us where to find it. If you know, Lower Decks is a fun one. Let us know, and please make sure that you give this a like. You go ahead and subscribe, and give us a nice rating and a nice review. And always remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
Remember to be an organ donor, and remember to watch the first of things.
Freeze frame like you're the Silver Surfer.
That shitty smile and pretend that